feed from YouTube right now. And anyone that follows me on here, you'll notice I haven't been uploading a lot of content. What I'm doing now is I'm transitioning to start doing more podcasting type of stuff, and my video uploading on Instagram. I just think it's easier, it's simpler, it's faster. So that's where a lot of my stuff goes. If you want to look for video content, I will be putting some workout stuff up on here, but for the most part, what this is gonna is some video podcasting. So know that. And the first 3 episodes of my podcast are up on my channel. It's just the actual audio. So now you're going to actually get to see me. Hopefully I don't mess up that many times because that'd be really fun and awkward. But anyway, here we go. I'm going to start recording the podcast. So anyone that watches this or listens to the podcast, please do me a favor and either comment on here. Let me know what you think. And it's up on iTunes. It's called the Underdog Training Podcast. So if you look up on iTunes, you'll find it there. If you leave a review, if you actually like the podcast, if you leave a review, that will help a lot because that's going to let me know what you want to hear. If you have any questions you want me to answer or privately, feel free to shoot me an email in the description, and it's in all my places. The podcast is also on SoundCloud. So all my contact info is there, but my email is nmaruka49@gmail.com. And my Instagram is also nmaruka49. So that's where you can follow most of my stuff that I'm putting out right now. So yeah, having a good day. It is June 6th. So here we go. What this podcast talks about also, it's a strength and conditioning coaching kind of life podcast. So you're gonna get some of my personal life stories and just what's going on in my life. Plus, I'm gonna talk about how I coach and different strength and conditioning aspects. It's not just all gonna be about training, but there will be people on the show that are important in my life. I'm gonna have some friends, some of my coaches on the show at some point also. Everyone enjoys it, and we'll see what happens. So here we go. All right, everybody, welcome to the 4th episode of the Underdog Training Podcast. It is your boy, Nick Maruka. Today is June 6th, 2017. It is Tuesday. It's a little gloomy day outside today. This weather's been all over the place, but back from the doctor a little bit ago, had to go get a physical and had to get a TB test for work. So that was a fun time. For the first time in months, I'm still in the 170s, thank God. If I drop below 170, I get a little upset. So I'm just there. I was like 170 or 171 today. Thank God, because I knew I'd been losing weight. Trying to, still cut a little bit for the summertime. I'm gonna be looking right when I go down to the Wildwoods in July. A couple months to get ready for that. I want to go in there in some of the best looking shape that I've been in. I think I look okay right now. But better than some people, I guess I should say. It's nice though because I'm cutting kind of slowly, so my strength numbers have actually increased a little bit or stayed the same. I haven't lost any strength, because like I said, I've been cutting. So did a little arm day yesterday, and hold up real quick, Phil. Everybody, give me a second. All right, that's gonna be better. I just want this to sound good. So yeah, I had a little arm day yesterday. I have been doing just bicep stuff for the past weeks on Mondays, which I don't actually do a lot. A lot of people think I do that just because I've just been genetically blessed to have bigger arms. I don't got the biggest legs in the world, so I got to make up for it somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, what I want to talk about on this podcast is, as the title of the episode implies, how to train youth athletes. Now, I work a lot with middle school and high school age athletes, and I think it's the most rewarding level of coaching. I've coached D1 over at Temple. I was there last summer. First, I was a volunteer strength and conditioning coach for their football team. So, that was obviously a fun time, especially because I was an alumni. Um, Good guys get drafted this past season. A lot of guys that I still keep into contact with, hopefully some of which will be up on the podcast. Possibly, I'm going to ask them if they want to be on. But anyway, I digress. Youth athletes it's a special place to train because you have the advantage of they're developing, and you can make the biggest impact on kids that way, I think. And you can see the progression from middle school up and through high school and college. Hopefully, it's successful. But there's a big emphasis, obviously, around the world right now on youth fitness and exercise and everything like that. And though is that there are a lot of coaches or trainers that don't necessarily know train younger kids correctly. A lot of people just throw them on a program isn't necessarily built for someone. There should be no program that you're throwing to a high school or younger kid that is the same thing that maybe a college athlete is doing. But unfortunately, that happens a lot. That you want to stick to the basics, and I think people try and program that's out there and that what looks the best and what's the most flashy to attract parents and to attract customers in general, because people are going to want to go wherever it looks the coolest. They're going to want to go where their friends are going, and I can't blame people for that. I understand it. I don't really mean that that's what's best for the kid. The place I work, it's small, and we have the basic things that we need, and we get a lot of really good work done. And that's because the things the kids are doing are very simple. They can understand them, and we can progress from that. You start a younger kid who's maybe 10, 11, 12 years old, get and even the high school age kid, a lot of them have never trained before high school. And even if you're sometimes upperclassmen, juniors, sophomores, juniors have never trained before if you're getting them for the first time. So you don't know what someone's age is right off the bat. And, that makes a very, very big difference in regards to how you're going to program the workouts. And I do when I coach is we focus on movements and the patterns, pushing, pulling. That honestly is the core of my program. And I'm lucky that I kind of have my own reign to do what I want to do with my athletes at the place that I work. Different things. I think another thing is people try and like I said, be too flashy or use too many things at once when everything is really just a tool. And just take 1,000 different things and try and put everything into one workout, because it's going to be too confusing for the kids, and you need to simplify it and stick to the basics. So many of the kids nowadays can't even do a proper squat or a proper push-up. So you really have to get down into the nitty-gritty of the simplest of simple, exercises and take it from there. I think there's an expectation sometimes from coaches, or maybe the coach is just too lazy to take the time to really get to know the kid and get to know what they physically need. Enough analyzation from a lot of coaches when it comes to kids that age of their bodies and move and things like that. It is just hinging and time for some kids to understand even the most basic concepts. So we'll be doing stuff with PVC pipe, single leg RDLs with a PVC pipe, the FMS corrective stuff. I do that a lot because that stuff is challenging for a lot of people. It's challenging for me. I mean, for obvious reasons. I actually went through an FMS for fun one time. And, my extreme mobility limitations because of my cerebral palsy, I think I got like the highest score is a 21. I think I got like maybe a 10 or less. And even things like my shoulder mobility is really bad from all the years of lifting and not doing enough mobility back then when I should have been doing it. I didn't know enough at the time to be doing it properly. But basics are, even though it's boring sometimes, there's ways to make it fun, and there's ways to progress it where doing the same thing and you're using a different implement, and even that changed because you don't want the kids to get bored. So maybe one day we'll do a kettlebell goblet squat. The next day it could be a sandbag zercher front squat. Then you go into maybe a double kettlebell front squat. My kids are never going to back squat. The kids that I have, unless they are really highly trained and they're either upperclassmen in high school or college, and I feel comfortable with them having a bar on their back. So a lot of it is body weight, just learning how to control that and understand the way their body's supposed to move and all the different thing, and using them properly in the proper position at all times. I never want to see a bad rep. If a rep is bad, I'm going to stop you mid-set. I'm going to fix it. I think a lot of coaches kind of just let things happen and then watch and sit on the sidelines. People aren't coaches. They're more like personal trainers. There's a very big difference between the two. Shame, right, that's going on right now is people just sit there and watch, and they don't know how to properly fix things and properly communicate to the athlete what they want to accomplish. When you get down to the nitty gritty, if we want to go from squat, like I was talking about, so you got your kettlebell squats, okay, then you got your bar, so you go to your bar front squat. I really love the Zercher squat for personal and professional reasons, because it's going to force you into an upright position. And you're immediately going to know that if you come too far forward, you're going to lose that you're supposed to be having when you're squeezing it. So you're squeezing it here, right, with the bar in between your elbows. And I've done this myself 1,000 times. So if you're forcing position and your shoulders are back, your back is tight, your core is tight, everything in there is tight. So there's no way that rep, if you're engaged properly, it engages everything so well. And you're doing a bad rep if you go too far forward, because that bar is going to come with you, and all that stress is going to immediately be transferred to your lower back, and you're going to have to kind of adjust from there and come back up from a bad position. And let me tell you right now, folks, it does not feel good. It does not feel good. And it's tough. That's another reason I like it, because it doesn't at all. My kids, when we're doing them, I don't let them use pads or anything, because I kind of want to toughness, because that bar is not going to feel good in that spot. And again, that's not something that we do right away. I build up to that. You're going to get some marks on your arms, and they're going to be there for a little while. Even though it doesn't feel good, a lot of times what happens is they'll get done a set and they'll be like, "Oh, coach, this hurts, but it looks really cool." and with kids like that age, that's kind of the thing that is important to them, is they want to feel good, they want to look good, and just enjoy themselves and have fun. So there's so many levels of progressions and regressions that you go through as a coach, and where you need to stick to. Like I said, pushes, pulls, squats, push-ups, carries. Carries are huge when developing initial strength, and even past that point, you can do a lot with carries, and you can vary them another 1,000 different ways. For knowing what they're going to expect. Yeah, the movement may be similar, but it's not going to be 100% the same all the time, and that's important. That is, you don't want to have a cookie cutter program. Unfortunately, as I hate that phrase, I stumbled enough there. I hate that phrase, but it's true. There are a lot of trainers and coaches that kind of just throw a program out there that they either found, or maybe is an old school program that use an old school program that they used to use, and they haven't adjusted it, and they haven't done enough research and kept up to date with certain certain training methods and stuff like that, that they're just like, here you go, and they throw it out there. I name any names of people that do that a lot. They throw it out there and they expect the kid to just be able to do it, and they don't adjust based on the individual needs of the athlete. And that is one of the worst things you could possibly do, because everyone is built differently. And I will talk about this all the time, because, my body, anybody else's, things that I do that you may look at, and this happens to me all the time, as I'm at the gym, and you may look at it and say, man, he looks like he's really in a bad position, or like that's really bad form, or he looks like he's like hurting himself. To the outsider, that way. However, that is the way my body does things, and I've to work around my mobility limitations, um, fly and go from there. So not everyone's going to be looking perfect all the time, but you want it to be as close to perfect as it can be. So where you kind of fudge the form a little bit, as long as it's not extremely impactful on the athlete. It doesn't always need to be 100% perfect, because that's just not a normal expectation. But you want it to be as best as it can possibly be. But anyway, these programs, you need to individualize. You need to know your athletes, and you may have a workout up for the day that you want everyone to do, and you can have a guy come in and say, "Coach, I messed. Maybe they were playing a sport and they got injured somehow, or they're just not feeling good that day and their body's really worn down. So you may need to either adjust the intensity, adjust the exercises, or just have them do kind of a mobility. That's important. And you also need to know where the level of your athletes are, and psychologically and everything else like that, because I have groups of kids that maybe, even though they're the same age biologically, their training ages are completely different. Their stages of development in their bodies are completely different, so they're not going to be doing the same things. I have kids that they're 13 years old right now. They're one of my biggest groups, at least the ones that train really hard. So years old, and for a year, some of them have been with me for a week or two, and right there tells you that the kids that have been here longer and know things better are going to be at a different level than the kids that have only been here for a couple of weeks. And that's the art of coaching. One of the most important things to be able to do is to adjust on the fly and have different workouts for different people. And even during a warm up, may have a kid that has some hamstring or hip mobility issues. So while everyone else is doing a certain warm up, you could have that other person on the side doing their warm up specifically meant for them. And it is a little bit easier at a private setting, because you don't have as many athletes as you do in, let's say, a school setting. But at the same time, setting, which I will be within the next couple of weeks, I also had to learn how to do that a little bit better. At that point, if you're in a high school and you have people that have been training with you for a little while, they should know what they need to work on. And, all it takes is them coming up to you and saying, "Coach, I have a little tweak here and there." And maybe it's only a few minutes workout that you give them a couple things to do right before they start working out, and that's it. Even though it's small, it's still individual, and it still shows that you care, because they want to come to you and you can give them something to make them better, and not just have them throw out there a warm-up that's not going to benefit them. It's not going to fix any issues that they have. So like for me today, I have to train legs, and one of the 2 or 3 days a week that I train legs, my warm-up about half an hour when you include foam rolling and all the other different mobility and stretches that I do. And, the warm-up sets of my initial squat sets, it takes me a long time. And okay, that I can have the time to do that. But if I didn't have that much time, I would still be able to pick and choose a couple things that you can do real quick to get your body ready. Planks, what we call leg drops, stuff like that. Just a few things here and there, and just a little bit of foam rolling. I always am a big believer of foam rolling before and after the workout. Huge thing to do. So you always got to allocate that time. And if you're someone that knows that it's going to take you a little while, or you need to get yourself in check a little bit, you got to show up early. You got to get it done beforehand, so that you don't take time away from the meat of the workout. And with kids, about caring, and I know for a fact I've said this on pretty much every single episode of the podcast so far, is you got to care about the kids, and you have to have fun with them, man. It's not something that needs to be all the time, especially at that level. And a lot of times with these younger kids, especially, if they're playing sports all the time and they're playing on travel teams and AAU teams and all that kind of stuff, they have a lot of stress on them. So they want to come to you And there's a big balance, a delicate balance between having fun and getting the work done. Um, it's probably a little bit different than a lot of coaches out there. And a lot of that is because I'm a young guy. I'm 26 years old, so I can still relate to the kids that I train because there's not a huge generational gap, which is a blessing and a curse at the same time. So much of what's going on in the world that they're dealing with that I also can relate to, or that I've gone through, and not necessarily that too long ago. So sometimes my middle school kids will come in here and they'll just start telling me about their day and all kind of the drama that's going on, and I don't necessarily have to respond to it. I just let them talk, tell me what's going on because I know they need to get it out of their chest, off their chest. Just want to come here and talk about it and tell me about it because they don't really talk about it to anybody else, and they know they're in an environment where they feel comfortable to be able to do that. And that's kind of the fun thing. Sometimes literally they'll come in and be like, "Coach, can we not listen to music today so we could kind of just talk about stuff?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, I have no problem with doing that." And I'll put a song on and I'll start. And this is a lot of from my personality also. I'll put a certain song on. I'm a big country music guy. Side note, the new album. And let me tell you right now, if you're a country music fan, listen to Luke Combs' new album. He's the guy that sings the song Hurricane. Album could be a #1 hit. And I'm not trying to exaggerate that. There was not a single song on it that I didn't like. Um, Also, Chris Stapleton's recently released album and Zach Brown's band's album. They're all three of those are just absolutely amazing. Anyway, so I'm a big country music guy, so I'll have a song on, and I know pretty much every song that comes on, and I sing throughout this entire workout session because I don't care. I sing and I release my personality and I dance around, and the kids start dancing around. And they start singing to it, and can see that, and they're like, "Man, this guy's either crazy." What he does, and it's a little bit of both. So, it's different. It's different for sure. Start belting out a song. They're like, "Coach, they all sound the same," and I'm like, "No, they don't, guys. They don't all sound the same." And some of them actually have started to listen to country music a little bit more, and they're starting to appreciate it. And that's kind of what happened with me when I was working out with Coach McKenna. I love it, and you know what? It's funny because if I don't have country on at this point now, I feel like they need to listen to it because it doesn't feel right. They're like, this is not, I'll put it on like a different genre, something that they like, and they're like, no, we want to listen to country because that's what we expect when we come here, and that's what they get used to working out to, and it's funny, and I love that. To have fun, you have to do some stuff where they can, compete against each other, not necessarily when it comes to the amount of weight that they're lifting, but that is a big part of it. You always want to compete against yourself and the guys around you to kind of push each other a little bit. And, that's not to say that even if one guy's stronger than the other, you still want to see everyone succeed. Everyone has their own individual levels that if they hit a big PR, I want every single person that's in that room to clap and be proud of that person and congratulate them because it's a big deal when you hit a PR. No matter what age you are, I still love hitting PRs. I always will. Strength is a crazy thing, man. It goes up and down all the time. So, and you have to have games. It was a couple weeks ago. Actually, it was like a month ago now on my birthday. And you know what we're going to do today, guys? We're going to go outside because it was beautiful out. I said, we're going to go outside and we're going to play kickball or dodgeball or whatever you want to do today. They're like, Coach, I wish we had a basketball hoop here so we could do that all the time. And I was like, yeah, that's a great idea. So I may try and do that. But you know what? You have to have that time with them to let them be kids and let them just enjoy themselves. And because if you're not having fun while you're working out, then it's just going to become a chore and you're not going to enjoy doing it anymore. Even when I'm personally lifting, I love it. I love everything about it. No matter who I'm with, I have started workout partners, my boy Craig Tobin. And we just goof around, and I can see like the old people's faces, or the older people's faces, I should say, that are looking at us like, really just sitting here and they're screaming about some stupid stuff. And if I have my headphones in, I'm usually singing to myself too. I'm kind of one of those guys. People ask me all the time, like, how can you have so much fun? And it's just, you have to, man. You can never take yourself too seriously. And anybody that knows me knows I'm like that all the time. My personality doesn't change much. You know, my coaching style might change depending on the athlete that I have. If you know, I have to be more in your face with somebody and more caring to somebody else and kind of take it a little slower, that's how that changes. My personality does not change much. Be the kind of coach that I need to be, situations, but you're always going to be like, all right, this guy's kind of goofy, but he knows his stuff, and I show that I care, because when it comes to younger kids, and unfortunately, I don't think a lot of coaches do this, at least strength coaches. Um, you have to realize that in their success in a way that you actually go out and watch them, that is going to much for them mentally that the physical going to come across in their training tenfold. I can tell you that from physical from personal experience when I was an athlete and now, because when again when I was coaching football, and I don't talk about when I was coaching football and I suited up for my senior night, and throughout the years of my coaching at my high school, come back in the uniform and to step on that field, um, even though they weren't my coaches and guys that I coached, and in the kind of the reverse way, seeing that it's the same thing, man, because those guys were older than me, and they came back when some of them had to drive out of their way, you know. They weren't even local, some of them, and they came back and they watched it for me. And you can tell from my voice probably that because it's important and always gonna hold, and how important that was, to the point that I have, or that I wore tattooed on my arm. So stuff like that. And I had a couple kids that were playing baseball against each other a few weeks ago, and I went to their game. Parents were telling me that they couldn't stop talking about it for like days because they were so excited and so happy that I went. Because when they're that young, they want to see that, and they see that you care and that you're not just a guy that they show up to the gym, you tell them what to do in their workout, and they leave. How I coach. So I always keep in contact with my athletes in some way or another, and I know what's going on when they're not here, and I try and make sure they're doing stuff that they should be doing outside of here, and I go to their sporting events because you have to support the kids that you train. And a lot of people don't do that, but when you do, like I said, it pays off in a lot of different ways, and it just makes me feel better as a person that I do that. I will always be somebody that takes the time to show how much I care about the people that I know, the people that are important in my life, and the people that I train. They're not just, I consider everyone an athlete. So they're not just athletes. They are people that family. And, you know, they're like my little brothers or something like that. You know, they're that I take and take that as a strength coach. And when you have that, it's going to make a world of difference. So, you know, summarize everything. Just stick to the basics. Put your movements. All right. Use your kettlebells and your barbells and your plates and dumbbells. You know, correctly. Use them when they're supposed to be used, and don't overcomplicate the workouts. Keep them simple. Keep them interesting and fun, and make sure you're varying the movements. You know, from week to week or every couple of weeks, so it doesn't get stale. But stick to the basics, and then once you get those down and you've perfected the bodyweight movements, progress from there and kind of have fun with things a little bit more. But don't progress too quickly. You can adjust the intensity, the rest, and the reps and the weight and all that stuff, but you feel comfortable that they're ready to do that. And it may take a couple weeks, it may take a month, it may take 2 months, but you will see it pay off. And you know, there was a kid that came to me a couple months ago that couldn't even do a push-up, and now he's doing clapping push-ups. Now he can do planks with his outstretched arm up all the way, and he kind of likes to show off a little bit. And I'm okay with that because I knew he came from a place that he was really struggling, just learning how to use his own body, and he's got come a long way. And it just takes time. You have to be patient, like I was talking about in last week's episode. You have to be patient. You have to just trust the process, and if you know what you're doing and you do things correctly and just kind of go off what I like to use, the long-term athletic development model, very, very big and very important. If you use that and you train youth athletes, I think that's one of the go-to standards on the way to do it. Just trust yourself that you know what you're talking about. Trust in yourself and trust in your athletes. And if you get that across to them, they're going to trust in you. So individualize that. Make sure you know your athletes well enough and you understand their bodies from day to day, and take time to get to know them, really understand where they're coming from in their lives every day, because it's important. They have to know. Kind of just let them into your life a little bit too. You don't want to just you as somebody that doesn't open up and is sheltered. What's going on in your life, and I think it's going to come off a lot better, and they're going to more. So hopefully this came across as a good episode. On the iTunes, SoundCloud, I have I'm recording this right now on YouTube also, so it's a video podcast now. And hopefully, please let me know, by the way, to a new microphone, the Blue Yeti. So if you notice a difference in the sound quality of the podcast today, please let me know. I'm sure there's going to be a massive increase in sound quality, I hope. Hopefully it comes it comes out as a lot crisper. You can hear my voice a little bit better and the inflections in my voice and stuff like that. Because I want to try to make this podcast, and the audio quality is obviously the biggest part of it, because that's all you're hearing is my voice, unless you go on YouTube and you watch it. So let me know how this sounded to you guys versus the other ones. Leave a comment on YouTube, or if you go on iTunes and review the podcast, that would mean a lot to me also. So thanks so much for listening, everybody. I'm going to go get ready to train some legs. Going to crush it. I got all groups coming in tonight from 4 to 8, packed house. Can't wait to get some good work done. So kill your training. Enjoy your life being an underdog, which I'm going to talk about next time. And see you later, guys. Those of you that are watch this on here, there's somebody watching it. Because I wasn't looking at my screen the whole time. I actually had my GarageBand up. So if you thought, leave a comment down below, like, all that stuff. The name of the channel is probably going to change, because I'm going to call it probably Underdog Training now, because that's kind of what I want everything to be kind of the same name. Makes more sense that way. So if you notice the name of the channel changes in the logo and all that stuff. So thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day.